Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Institute of Jewish Studies at University College London and on behalf also of the British Friends of the Hebrew Universities, our partner this evening, I'd like to welcome you to this evening's exciting event. I'm speaking to you from Paris, and I know others from elsewhere. So this is the wonders of Zoom, and I'd like to turn the meeting over now to Nigel Solomon. Nigel, please.
Thank you very much, Mark. I deeply regret that despite the background, I'm not in Jerusalem. I'm in sunny, not so sunny northwest London. We're very delighted, the British Friends of the Hebrew University, I'm the chief executive, to once again partner the very illustrious Institute of Jewish Studies at UCL. Thank you for joining this event entitled From Vision to Reality, a Century of the Hebrew University, and as we will soon learn, the deep and abiding British connections. In exactly 13 days, on the 1st of April, it really will be the centenary. 100 years before that, on the 1st of April 1925, a dream came true when thousands gathered on a less than secure hillside, a rocky dais, uncomfortable seats cut into the hilltop, and who would have believed today, especially our founding fathers, Freud, Buber, Einstein, and many others, including Weizmann and Ahad Ha'am, the dream could not have stretched 100 years into the future, and I'd like to think they'd be very impressed. In fact, in good Jewish tradition, there's always celebrations and momentous dates. Next year, 2026, is the 100th anniversary, significantly, of the British Friends of the Hebrew University. More about that from our speaker soon. And I've just learned that this year marks the 60th anniversary of the Hebrew University's relationships academic with the Hebrew University. Some housekeeping. Microphones are muted, and we ask therefore that any questions you have, and we hope there'll be many, are put into the chat box, which Moriah will attend to a little bit later. The event is recorded. It'll be uploaded to YouTube and communicated to you directly in some cases. And now and a bit later, Moriah will put into the chat box details of how you can connect and learn about events from the Institute of Jewish Studies and, of course, the British Friends of the Hebrew University. We have a real treat in store for you this evening, and it will be entirely remiss of me, with his illustrious career, to even dare to shorten by one line the resume of our guest speaker, Ambassador Yossi Gal. So bear with me. Ambassador Yossi Gal is Vice President for the Hebrew University's Advancement and External Relations Unit. He's a career diplomat who recently served Israel as the nation's ambassador to France and Monaco, 2010 to 2015, during the period of Charlie Hebdo affair, and previously was posted to Washington, D.C. twice, once as Minister of the Ambassador's, Director of the Ambassador's Office, and later as spokesman of the embassy between 1985 and 1989. He served as Israel's ambassador to the Netherlands from 1995 to 2001. He's lectured widely throughout the world and published articles in the French and US media. Ambassador Gal launched his Foreign Service career in 1975. He fulfilled various responsibilities at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, including as Director of the Information Department and Deputy Director General for Communications, participating in peace negotiations with Israel's neighbors and chairing the Israeli delegation to the multilateral peace talks on the environment. Later, he headed the Press and Communications Department at the Prime Minister's Office, served as Deputy Director General for Economic Affairs, and was ultimately promoted to Director General of Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a highly prestigious role. He's been extensively involved in international relations. Ambassador Gal participated in the Madrid Peace Conference, was a member of the peace negotiating team with Jordan and the Palestinians, headed the process of Israel's adherence to the OECD, and led the negotiations on upgrading relations with the European Union. But above all, he's a proud father and grandfather, and who knows, maybe even a bit prouder to be an alumnus of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Yossi, Babakasha, the microphone is yours.
Well, thank you, Nigel. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. As Nigel mentioned, in 1918, 107 years ago, the cornerstone for Hebrew University was laid on Mount Scopus. And 7 years later, on April 1st, 1925, the doors of the university were opened. And the dates I suggest are very significant because 1918 is a whole generation, 30 years before the establishment of the State of Israel, which to me means two things. First, that the founding fathers, and they were mentioned, Albert Einstein, Sigmund Freud, Martin Buber, Chaim Nachman Bialik, and the others, had their priorities right. You first establish an institution of higher learning, and 30 years later, you establish the state. By the time the State of Israel was established, all the infrastructure was there because of Hebrew University. And the second thing is that there's nothing, but nothing more important in our Jewish culture than the value of education. Now, what I want to do in this very short presentation is first to do some justice to our British friends and speak about the British connection, because whenever we talk about the Hebrew University, we mention the founding fathers, and we mention all the others from around the Jewish world, but not enough attention, I'm afraid, was devoted in the past to the British connection. Now, those of you who have been to the Mount Scopus campus, as you enter the campus on the right-hand side, there's a huge picture on the wall by an artist named Leopold Pilichovsky. And the picture is that of the festive opening of the university on Mount Scopus with 7,000 people on April 1st, 1925. Now, when you read the history of that opening ceremony, and when you read the speeches, and when you go through the list of people who attended, you realize that the British constituted the vast majority of people who were there. Just one example, I mean, universities from around the world sent their representatives to attend this ceremony. But the presidents of British universities were about 50%, one half of those who attended the ceremony. I'm talking about universities like Oxford and Manchester, King's College, Leeds, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Cambridge, Birmingham, Bristol, Belfast, Aberdeen, St. Andrews, and so on and so forth. But not only the presidents of these universities, official representatives from London, from the British Academy, from the British Medical Association, from the Royal Society, from the British Museum, from the Royal Institution, from the Jewish Historical Society, and the list goes on and on and on and on. But then you go into the speeches. 5 speeches were given or carried out on that ceremony. 3 of the 5 were given by British. I mean, Sir Herbert Samuel, Lord Balfour, and Chaim Weizmann, who was half and half. He was a British scientist. And people even don't know that the prayer to conclude the ceremony was delivered by the chief rabbi of the United Kingdom, the chief rabbi of Great Britain, Rabbi Dr. Hertz. And in the closing lines of this prayer, he said, "O guardian of Israel, guard the remnant of thy people, and spread the tabernacle of thy peace on the children of every nation who dwell in this land under the protection of our sovereign Lord, His Majesty King George V," and so on and so forth. But it is not only the sheer numbers. I strongly suggest that each and every one of you read this beautiful speech delivered by the Earl of Balfour, by Lord Balfour. Really a piece of art. Unfortunately, people don't really make speeches like this. And the first point he makes in his speech is to refer to the location on Mount Scopus. And here is what he says. He realized that the location of the Hebrew universities is the place from which you can see the very spot where the children of Israel first entered the promised land. Now, when you come visit Mount Scopus and you go on top of one of the buildings, you can see, of course, Jordan, you can see the Dead Sea, you can see the Jordan River. But then he adds something even more interesting, that it was from that specific hill of Mount of Olives and Mount Scopus that the Roman destroyer of Jerusalem conducted the siege, which brought to an end the great chapter of the Jewish people. I mean, whoever picked this location for the Hebrew University could not have done a better place. But you go on in the speech and you see this fantastic wisdom of Lord Balfour and some of the very interesting questions and the answers he gave. For example, one of the questions he asks is Hebrew really the language of science? Hebrew, a dormant language for so many years. And he goes on to say that, yeah, there's a great difference between the book of Isaiah and microbiology. So he deals with this question as his answer is, of course, in the positive. Then he talks about the skepticism about are Jews really the ones to engage in science, which he dispels in a second because he speaks to those who are skeptical, and he speaks about Sigmund Freud, who happens to be Jewish, and he speaks about, of course, the greatest of all scientists, Albert Einstein, and so on and so forth. Then he deals with a third question. Can it be of service to the Arabs, not only to the Jews? And with this fantastic historic perspective, it goes back to the Middle Ages when the Jews and the Arabs collaborated and were really the leaders of the sparks of light in enlightenment. And so you look at it and you realize in retrospect, yes, we are rightly paying a lot of tribute to the huge scientists of Albert Einstein and Sigmund Freud and Martin Buber and Chaim Nachman Bialik and Ahad Ha'am and Chaim Weizmann and so on and so forth. But we have to be realistic. And by the way, I failed to mention another great British who were there, General Allenby. I mean, just few years before that, 1917, General Allenby was very. We all know what General Allenby was for that region. So I hope that in this very, very short introduction, I tried to do some justice to our British friends. I think I know the reason why this is almost forgotten, because in our collective thinking, Great Britain is 1947, 1948, the War of Independence, and so on and so forth. But we should not really lose sight of this outstanding role that the British government, the British academia, the British media, the British people played in the establishment of our university. And I strongly suggest that you take that booklet. It won't take you more than one evening to read. It's only 70, 80 pages. And read the proceedings of the event, and you will see how dominant the British presence, the British articulation, and the British devotion and commitment to this university. Having said that, fast forward 100 years, and we're very, very proud to have one of the leading universities in the world, one of the best universities alongside with others in Israel, a comprehensive university that really is in the forefront of science. And when I look forward the years to come, and of course, we are a comprehensive university. We have a commitment to each and every department, to the humanities and the social sciences and the social studies and law and everything. But when I look at the major projects that we are committed to right now, I would really point out to three, but God forbid, not diminishing the importance of each and every faculty, each and every thing that we teach and study at the university. I would say that on top of our priorities, we have issues like human health, high technology, food safety, and then a few others. But let me say a word about each of the three. And I think that you have our commitment to be engaged in this in the years to come. Human health, we have a very, very strong commitment and faculty and departments dealing with different aspects of medicine. Computational medicine, for example, which is the medicine of the present and of the future. Computational medicine is that study that brings to the table, that discipline that brings to the table the doctor, the computer analyst, and the researcher. And the idea is, how do you harness AI and big data in the service of medicine? Now, this is relatively a new branch of science. We take every year only 23, 24 students. And these are the creme de la creme of the students because they do their medical degree and they do their computer engineering degree all at the same time. So this is one area where we are very strong. Now, neurodegenerative diseases and the brain center. Now, of course, life expectancy worldwide is going up, and with it, all of these phenomena that are related to old age, such as Alzheimer, Parkinson, dementia, loss of memory, and so on and so forth. I mean, we all know somebody in the neighborhood, in the family, among our friends who is suffering from this. And this is something that is one big mystery that the academic community, including our university, are very committed to working on. And the third, speaking of medicine, is of course cancer research. We have a very significant of research groups in our Faculty of Medicine that is combined with Hadassah Medical School. I mean, our Hebrew University Hadassah Medical School, and they are doing, I think, some very significant research in different areas of hematology, of cancer of the pancreas, and other cancers. So this is one group where the goal is, of course, to make our society a better place to live in, and the commitment is there. And that, it's not a secret, that takes a lot of our financial resources. The second area, which continues to grow at Hebrew University, is high technology. And under high technology, I put everything from quantum physics and nanotechnology and computer engineering and electrical engineering and material engineering. Now, why is this important? I mean, for obvious reasons. It is important because the Israeli economy is what it is because we have really world leaders in the areas of high technology. If 7 years ago, a company that came out of Hebrew University, Mobileye, was sold for $15 billion, I mean, and the guy that runs Mobileye is still a professor at our university. This really says something about the contribution to the Israeli economy. Nowadays, they're talking about another company, Wiz, that is going to be sold for $30 billion. At the same time, we are very short. We are 18,000 engineers short in Israel. And our commitment, and that of the other universities, but I'm talking about my university, is really to try and meet the demand for this first-class engineers. We are adding a fourth building to our computer engineering, and unfortunately, there are very few students that we can take. The demand is fantastic. The standards are extremely high, but we will expand this. The third topic is that of food technology and food safety. Now, why food technology? Because we try to look at the future. 10, 15, 20 years from now, if the current trends continue, there won't be enough food to feed the entire world. We at Hebrew U, because we have the only faculty of agriculture in Israel, are very much into developing food substitutes and food technologies. I mean, everything from artificial breast milk, which is, the doctors say, is the best milk for the infants, to printing steaks and what have you. And this is an area that is very strong. Again, at this point in time, we are the only faculty of agriculture, and we are in the process of really enlarging this. I can go on and on with many, many other disciplines, but I will just say this, and with this, I'll conclude and open it for your questions. When people ask me, what is really the ultimate goal of the Hebrew University? And the answer is, to me, very simple. The ultimate goal of the university is to make the world a better place to live in, is to make Jerusalem a better place to live in, to make Israel a better place to live in, and to make the world a better place to live in. Let me just finish with one example. I mean, very few people know that 20% of our first-year students are Arabs. 17% of the entire student body at the university are Arabs. Now, this is something very significant, and this is something that we strongly believe in. And I believe that education among Jews and among Arabs is very, very important. The fact that since the outbreak of the Gaza war 17 months ago, there has not been one single incident, not even one single incident of tensions or violence or anything among Jewish and Arab students at any of our campuses is an indication that maybe we are doing something right. So we are committed to this. We'll continue to do it. We'll continue to make Jerusalem my city. I'm a Jerusalemite by birth and very proud to be one, to make Jerusalem, Israel, the Jewish world, and the world at large a better place to live in. And I was asked to speak for 25 minutes, and my time is up, so questions. My teacher used to say, since there are no questions, it's either that you understood everything or that nothing was understood.
Thank you, Yossi. It's Nigel here. I think, Moria, you have the chat box. And there are some questions, if you can hear me. If not, I will ask the first question.
Sure.
Okay, if I may.
Go ahead, Nigel.
Are you there, Moya? Are you?
I'm here, yes.
Okay, I'll mute. You can take the first question. Go ahead.
Okay. So Yossi, what happened in 1948 when Jerusalem was divided, and how come the Zionist project did not simply disappear?
Well, 1948 is, of course, the War of Independence. Hebrew University, as we described earlier, was established on top of Mount Scopus. But then, as a result of the War of Independence, which was a very long and costly war, the entire area of Mount Scopus was surrounded by the Jordanians. And as a result, it has always been Israeli territory, both the university and the Hadassah Hospital on Mount Scopus. But they were cut off and they were surrounded by the Jordanians. So it was very clear that teaching and studying on Mount Scopus could not continue. As a result, in 1948, the university moved to quite a number of buildings inside West Jerusalem. And then later in the 60s, they started building the second campus, the campus on Givat Ram, the Safra campus. And nowadays, we are spread in 6 campuses. We have 3 campuses in Jerusalem. The one on Mount Scopus is the historic and the biggest one, and it houses the humanities, the social work, the law, education, with about 12,000 students. The second one is in the heart of town, next to the Israel Museum, and that's the experimental campus. That's where experimental sciences, that's where we do mathematics and physics and all of these things that I described earlier under computer engineering, electrical engineering. The third campus is the medical campus adjacent to the Hadassah Hospital in Karen. These are the 3 inside Jerusalem. Then we have the campus in Rehovot, across the street from the Weizmann Institute, and that's water, food, environment, agriculture campus. The 5th one is a small campus where we do veterinary medicine. That's on the outskirts of Tel Aviv. And then we have a very small campus in the south, in Eilat, which is marine biology. Now, why is it important to have so many different disciplines in one university? Yes, we have some excellent universities. The Technion is an outstanding university. Weizmann is a fantastic research institute. But the world of science becomes more and more interdisciplinary. Think of the brain research that we spoke about earlier. If we want to understand what goes on between our ears, we need experts from quite a number of different disciplines. You need disciplines from experts in medicine, experts in neurology, experts in computing, experts in psychology, experts in philosophy, and so on and so forth. And being a general comprehensive university, we're able to bring up the experts from all of these disciplines to one center in order to explore, this question of the neurodegenerative diseases. So this is basically what started in 1925 and was cut off for a while between 1948 and 1967. We immediately, because Mount Scopus was an enclave inside, surrounded by enemy at the time. I think that today is a thriving campus for both Jews and Arabs from everywhere.
Thank you, Yossi. We have another question. How did the university react to the academic boycotts and the BDS over the years, and especially currently since 7th of October?
Well, that is a very, very good question. And I think that it is one of the topics that keep us busy in certain areas in Europe. I mean, in most countries and in most academic institutions, I mean, people know that how to make this distinction between politics and between academia. But there are certain, we have to admit, there are certain elements that are trying to play up this, and certain universities, unfortunately, are being dragged into this attempt to boycott Israel. We are very active in trying to establish contact with each and every one of them. But again, the line that is most important here is that these two terms, boycott and academia, don't really live together. Academia is about openness. Academia is about exchange of views. Academia is about working together. The academic world does not recognize boundaries. Knowledge doesn't stop at frontiers. And some universities, not too many, without even establishing contact with us, without even asking us questions, are blaming us for some ridiculous allegations and to justify certain actions that are being taken. If I give you, for example, I mean, they say you are an agent of the government. Well, whatever you think about this government or another government is really not relevant. I mean, the freedom of academia is sacred everywhere. I mean, government in Israel does not dictate to the academia what to explore, what to research, what to do. With all due respect, I mean, the whole idea of academia is the freedom, and we enjoy complete freedom. Then some of them say, yes, but you have military programs. We have soldiers that study at the university. I mean, and in every country around the world, if a soldier comes tomorrow to a university in the United Kingdom or in the Netherlands or this, and he's a soldier, of course he will be admitted, he will not be rejected. The thing is that we have academic programs where some people from the military engage, but we do not have any intervention of the military authorities in the programs, and so on and so forth. But these are all excuses. And luckily, I think that we managed to minimize the impact of this movements, but this activity has to be seen in the wider context. Whatever Israel does, whatever Israel is engaged in, is a reason to do this and that, but it has nothing to do with the academia.
Thank you, Yossi. Another question. Are there any academic disciplines that the university has developed and are considered unique or pioneering on a global scale?
Well, I mean, we are, of course, extremely proud of the fact that throughout the years we have produced, so to speak, 8 Nobel Prize winners, more than 300 winners of the Israel Prize, 1 Wolf medal, 2 Turing medals. You know, in mathematics there is no Nobel Prize. There is a Wolf. In the computer there is a Turing medal. So I think that we have at present 2 Nobel Prize winners that are teaching at the university. And if you ask me about something specific, I think that I will relate again to the topics that I mentioned before. I think that we are very, very strong in agriculture. We're very strong in developing substitutes for food. I mean, the United States is a world leader, but we are not lagging behind. We are doing very well in computer engineering. But again, I mean, it's not me to really give marks to. I mean, all of them are good. I mean, and for us, the other thing that is very important, and we haven't touched on it, I mean, even though there's a tendency to move more and more into the experimental sciences, we insist on the importance of the humanities and the social studies alongside with the experimental sciences. I think that to be an excellent scientist in whatever, in computers, in electricity, in mathematics, you have to have also a very solid base in the humanities. Besides the point that now everything is interrelated. We have a special program that is called Digital Humanities, where you combine really the humanities with tools from the digital world to make the research of the humanities even better. But medicine and agriculture and high tech, these are the areas where I think we try to excel.
Thank you, Yossi. What is the university's vision for the next 100 years?
Well, for the next 100 years, I'm not sure I know. I can talk about the next 7 years, about the next 10 years. And the goals are to continue to serve as the locomotive that pulls the entire education system in the country. I mean, you know, every now and then when I have visitors from around the world, from certain parts of the world, and they go into classrooms, some of them come out shocked. They come to me and they say, what is it with your students? Where is the respect to the professors? I mean, how come they behave like this? And my answer is that the first thing we teach our students is that your professor is not necessarily smarter than you are, and that you should not take anything for granted, and that you should ask all the questions. It's such a basic value in Judaism. Those of you who are familiar with the Talmud and the Mishnah on every possible topic, there is Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai, Abaye and Rabbah, which is, so the first goal, I think, is to continue to cultivate in the most professional way we can the value of education, the value of higher education. Second is to do everything possible to integrate all elements of the society into this system and share everything we have with those that are, say, less fortunate. That is why, for example, I mentioned already the high percentage of Arab students, students from what we call first-generation students, students who do not come from academic background. This is something, and there are still plenty of those in Israel. The ultra-Orthodox students, and I don't know, all of this, I think that we have an obligation without compromising, of course, on the academic level, but we have an obligation to give an opportunity to each and every one of them. And then we have a commitment also to the world. I said at the very beginning that our goal is to make the world a better place to live in. Some of the programs that I'm extremely proud of are our international programs. We have 3 major international master programs where we bring students from the third world, where we bring students from that don't have, say, the opportunity to study. Let me give you one example. I mean, we have a very prestigious program, master program in public health. We take every year 22, 23 students, mostly from Africa, Palestinians and others. They come to the Hebrew University and they study for a whole year public health. At the end of the year, once graduated, they go back to the countries, and then in most cases, they serve as the high officials of public health in their countries. In one instance, one of these graduates became a minister of health. Now, this is easier said than done. These are very, very costly students. They cannot afford the tickets, they cannot afford the tuition, they cannot afford the lodging, they cannot afford, but we view it as our commitment to the world, to share with those that are less fortunate everything that we have. So this is one of the most, to me, as a Jew, one of the most meaningful programs we have. We have a similar program in agriculture, where we bring from Southeast Asia, from places from around the world, students that come to our Faculty of Agriculture. And Israel is known for its achievements in agriculture. They come to our school, they do their master program. Some of them continue to do their doctoral at the university. And there are a number of such programs. So when you ask me what is it that I see for ourselves as the goal, is to continue to make a better science for Israel, a better science for the Jewish people, a better science for the world, and keep improving. And in the process, collaborate with all of those in the world of science that are doing the same thing. At the end, we started with this. I don't think that there's anything more important than education. If Israel is what is called the startup nation, if Israel is a world leader in a number of areas, if Israel's economy is what it is, if the GDP of Israel is more significant than many countries around the globe, it is not because of natural resources that we have or not, but because of the quality of science and because of the importance of science. Listen, when I was a trainee at the foreign ministry, when I started my career as a young diplomat, the top issue was water. There was a serious shortage of water everywhere in the Middle East. And all the experts used to tell us that the next war in the Middle East will be over water. Fast forward, we have a surplus of water. We have 5 desalination projects, and the surplus is being pushed back into the aquifers. If in the 60s, when I was a baby, I mean, the big national project was the National Water Carrier, bringing water from the Lake of Galilee to the south of Israel to irrigate the fields. Now it's the other direction. Water from the south go to the Lake of Galilee. But this is all science. So I apologize for a very long answer to a short question, but this is my view for the future.
No, thank you very much for the elaborated answer. We have a question about Einstein. What was Einstein's relationship with the university, and how come he was so devoted to the Hebrew University's formation?
Well, that's an excellent question. Those of you who come to visit the Hebrew University are strongly advised to try and get to the Einstein archives. Einstein, before he passed away, he bequeathed all of his belongings to the Hebrew University. We have today 82,000 documents in his clean, neat handwriting, including the famous theory of relativity. I mean, Einstein was undoubtedly the most important scientist of the 20th century and the 21st century. And I mean, nowadays, in everything we do, everything from navigation to GPS to satellites, everything really comes out of the theory of relativity. But among the things that Einstein bequeathed to the university, as I said, are all of these documents. By the way, Einstein wrote the basic document that guides the university to this very day. It's a one-pager called The Mission of Our University. And this document that was written 100 years ago is still the paper that guides us as a university. So Einstein, again, when you visit his archives, you realize that he was not only an outstanding scientist, but you will be able to see all of his correspondence with world leaders, all of his involvement with, I mean, in short, very, very significant. But the answer to your question is that Einstein believed very strongly in science and believed very strongly in the importance of science. And because of that, he was, what he was, the father of the Hebrew University. Again, people speak about the theory of relativity. There's a famous story of Albert Einstein and Chaim Weizmann traveling to New York. And at that time, it was, a week-long trip by ship. And they traveled there in order to raise funds for this nascent young Hebrew university. And at that time, the theory of relativity was already a huge thing. So when they reached New York, there was a bunch of journalists there, and they asked they asked Chaim Weizmann, well, what did you talk all of this week-long trip? He said, we talked about the theory of relativity. And do you, Professor Weizmann, do you understand the theory today? Weizmann responded, well, I'm sure that he understands it, that Einstein understands it. So, this is, Einstein was really the father, alongside with others, but Einstein was a very, very important figure behind the whole idea of a Jewish university.
Thank you, Yossi. Very quick. We have two more questions. If people want to ask some questions, I saw some raised their hands. Just please write them in the chat so we can respond. Next question, Yossi. Is the university truly reliant on philanthropy?
Well, there are, around the world, there are different models. There is the American model, there is the European model, and there is the Israeli model that is in between. In Europe, most universities are, of course, fully financed by the government. In the United States, the leading universities are private universities. In Israel, all of the universities, save one, are public universities, which means that the government supports very, very significantly the current budgets of the university. Support the current budget, but without any interference. In the whole idea of an academy is that there's no interference of the government. But of course, science being, certain areas of science being so expensive as they are, there is a need for philanthropy, both from Israel and from around the world. And luckily, we have some very, very good friends around the world. We have offices all around the world, and they help us in those areas of development where the government cannot support us. But yes, the government is the main contributor, because we are a public university and because of the importance of education. So philanthropy is important, but philanthropy covers, only a small portion of science today is very, very expensive. Think about the Hebrew University. We have close to 25,000 students. We have 1,200 professors. We have thousands of teachers. So we have, this is 6 campuses to run. This is an operation that is very costly, and we need the government.
Thank you, Yossi. So one last question before we close. How is the Hebrew University honoring the contribution of Jews from England besides Einstein, like Vera Salomons, who purchased the land for the Mount Scopus Library and the cemetery where Bentwich is buried, many of whom moved to Israel and who were instrumental in bringing the Hebrew University to its current status? So it's a long question, but I hope you can relate to all of it.
Well, first of all, by holding this very webinar, I think that this is what we touched upon at the very beginning. I mean, I think that the contribution of the British to well, I think that the British have contributed a lot to the culture in our country, but the contribution of the establishment to the establishment of the university was tremendous. But since then, we're very lucky, and I think Nigel mentioned it at the very beginning. 1 year after the opening of the university, the British Friends opened their offices, and we are indeed extremely pleased to have such a wonderful group of friends and in the United Kingdom. I mean, as we are, of course, in many other places around the world, but the British really deserve, a big thank you for everything they have done to bring this dream into reality. And that continues to this very day. And I think that of the offices we have around the world, or the friends we have around the world, the British Friends, the BFHU, British Friends of the Hebrew University, is one of the most active and most significant. But again, somebody asked about philanthropy. I'm very, very pleased to see that in Israel itself, philanthropy is developing, and Israel is becoming one of the important markets for philanthropy. But again, you have to remember, we talk about different models. Tuition in our university is a fraction of what it is in some of the leading universities in the United States. But then here in Europe, people don't pay anything. So we are somewhere in the middle. I mean, I don't remember the exact figures, but I think that the tuition for your bachelor degree is about $4,000 a year, which is really nothing compared to what students pay to get to excellent universities overseas.
Thank you very much, Yossi. Thank you very much to everyone for your wonderful and interesting questions and for joining us tonight. We're going to close, so I'm going to hand over the stage to Sarah Ben Isaac from the Institution of Jewish Studies at UCL to close the evening. Sarah, over to you.
Thank you very much, Moria. I just wanted to thank you, Nigel, for once again inviting this cooperation. Moria, also for your very professional organization. And of course to Yossi, it's been really fascinating, a historical overview. And you've also underlined for us the great importance of the Hebrew University and the role it plays today. So thank you very, very much, everybody. And of course, thank you to our audience and for coming tonight, for joining us. We very much hope to see you again soon. The IJS does have one more event this term. That is next Tuesday. You can see the details in the chat. So we look forward very much to seeing you again, and also for further cooperation with you, Nigel and Moria.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good night to everyone.